The brazen bull. Planned in old Greece, in this brutal method the guilt was kept in the bull-shaped brass box that can be opened and hooked. Fire was set under it until the metal turned out to be actually red hot. The casualty would then be gradually cooked to death, all while shouting in horrifying torment. Spanish donkey. This torture device consists of a wooden triangular prism with the top sharpened. The victim was then made to sit on the main board as if riding a horse, and then weights were applied to both legs. This results in the victim's torso slowly splitting. Impalement. Used by Vlad the Impaler in 15th century Romania, the casualty was compelled to sit on a sharp and thick shaft pole. The pole was then raised upright and the casualty was left to slide down with their own weight, taking an average 3 days to die. Judas cradle. The Judas cradle was a medieval torture device which consists of a sharp pyramid-shaped seat, in which the victim was placed. The top point was inserted into the anus or vagina, slowly ripping its way through the victim's torso. Victims would die of severe infection, as the device was never cleaned or simply being impaled. Breast ripper. This torture instrument is especially used on women who were accused of adultery, self-abortion, blasphemy, heresy or witchcraft. Designed to rip the breasts from a woman, this was one of the most brutal torture methods in the whole Middle Ages. The death often followed, usually due to heavy blood loss or infection. The saw. This painful torture in which the victim is hung upside down, making the person's head receive high pressure of the blood as it keeps people conscious for a long time. The body is then cut so that the body divides into two, but very slowly. Amputations. Removals. The meaning itself explains, in this method, casualty were kept in an isolated room and their body parts were gradually cut out every day, beginning with the printing of hair, nails the next day and so on, his body parts proceeding onward to the standard body parts. Though the death was sure, the victim was supposed to face torture for a very long period of time till his every parts break down. The rack. Who could you think to torture someone dislocating all the joints? This is one of the most painful torture, as the pain of breaking bone is still high. The wooden frame torture device is used, in which 2 ropes are fixed to the bottom and the top of the frame and tied to hands and legs. The rope was then rolled such that the victim's body is stretched, ultimately leading breakage of all joints of the body. Head crusher. The head crusher comprised of a plate that sat below the victim's jaw, which is connected by a frame to the head cap. The torturer slowly twisted the handle, and the gap between the head cap and plate decreased in width, causing crushing of the skull and facial bones, including teeth and jaws. The victim's head would slowly be crushed, killing the victim, but not before the victim's jaw had been crushed, and their eyes had popped from their sockets. Crocodile shears. This device was usually used on those who attempted to assassinate the king. The clamps were intensely heated, then applied to the victim's erect penis, which was then torn from his body, causing intense pain and internal bleeding.